Yeah. Analytics off the chain, other channels not the same. Jake and Kyle, you know the name. Headliner Nation, we running the game. I'm a headliner.
What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake, Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there today. We're talking about a few forgotten souls when it comes to the running back position here in Fantasy Football 2022. Now, I could sit here and I could tell you about Christian McCaffrey and Alvin Kamara and Austin Eckler and how they have a lot of PPR value. But you're not an idiot, right? You already know they have a lot of PPR value, right? No, you're not an idiot. I could also sit here and talk about Leonard Fournette and DeAndre Swift. They have huge PPR upside in 2022. But they're going in the first two rounds. You already know that. I could talk about Michael Carter in the mid rounds having some PPR value, but we already talked about him earlier in the week. No. Today, we're going deep. And you know what happens when you go deep? Good things happen. And in this draft this year, it's no different. We're looking for some PPR upside late in drafts just in case we need somebody to help us at any point throughout the season. Some late round flyers, some late round treasure chest finds, I guess we could call them. And we're going to get right into the names here in just a second, but just a quick reminder, our draft guide is for sale on our website, thefantasyheadliners.com. Get yours pre-ordered now so you can have over 600 virtual pages of all things fantasy football to help you dominate here this year. And then I need to set you a like goal. You've been blowing like goals out of the water here as of late. So if we can hit 700 likes on this video right here, I'm going to give away 2 free draft guides to somebody who leaves a comment down below. So hit that like button, leave those comments. Let's dive right into the first name here, which is going to be J.D. McKissic of the Washington Commandos. Now, by no means are these guys like must-have running backs or potential league winners for you guys. These guys are late-round draft flyers that can really provide some value potentially to your team, and J.D. McKissic fits that bill. Over the last 2 seasons, he's had 163 targets in Washington, currently going right around the 16th round. Now, he did miss a few games in 2021, and that led to a little bit of lower numbers last season, but they brought him back for a reason in this offense. He is a big play guy. He was running back 2 overall in fantasy football in fantasy points per opportunity. And what that really is how many fantasy points is he scoring per carry and target combined. That was at 1.27. The guy just scores fantasy points when he gets touches. We're also talking about a guy who just 2 years ago was a running back 2, a top 24 running back in fantasy football just 2 short seasons ago. Now, I know they drafted Brian Robinson, and I'm sure he's going to see some work. That worries me a little bit more for Antonio Gibson, if I'm being completely honest. This guy is basically free and has great PPR upside in a system in which we've already seen him produce in. So J.D. McKissic, end of drafts, putting him down on the draft sheet right now. Next up, what about Darrell Williams? I mean, did you even know that Darrell Williams had signed with the Arizona Cardinals? I mean, he's basically the Chase Edmonds replacement, which is great because he's going to have an opportunity at like 150 plus touches right off the bat. We're talking about a guy who just last year had over 1,000 total yards and 8 touchdowns in Kansas City, and now people are just ignoring him. He was the running back 18 overall in fantasy football last season, and now crickets. Nobody acts like the guy exists. He goes to Arizona, who is a high-powered offense, and they're going to need some playmakers earlier on in the season, especially with no DeAndre Hopkins there in the mix. Now, James Conner kind of filled this role when Edmonds was out in 2021 pretty well, but they need to kind of limit his touches somewhat. They don't want to run him into the ground. They need James Conner healthy all season long. Darrell Williams, he was top 10 among all running backs last season in routes run, yards per reception, and catch rate. A great receiving option for the Arizona Cardinals out of the backfield. He's a perfect complement to this offense here, and Arizona comes at a great time. He brings Super Bowl experience, and he's going to have an opportunity for immediate volume, and he's free on draft day. Don't forget about Darrell Williams. And then we move on to a former Arizona Cardinal, Kenyon Drake, currently running back 65, going undrafted as well. I was shocked when I dove into some of this research, and I saw that the Las Vegas Raiders last season had 131 targets go to running backs. That is a huge number. They were among one of the league leaders in that stat. Then they add Josh McDaniels, a coach that we've known has utilized pass-catching backs in the past in New England. They drafted Zamir White, who's really not a third down back, right? He's more of a bruiser, could take away some touches from Josh Jacobs potentially. They signed Brandon Bolden from New England. Drake, we know, should be 100% coming off his broken ankle injury. And they play in the highest powered division in all of football, the AFC West, where they'll have 6 games this year against Kansas City, Denver, and LA. You got Herbie, Mahomes, and Russell Wilson 6 times this season. They're going to have to continue to throw the ball. Could Kenyon Drake kind of be a good PPR stash late in drafts? In my opinion, he's the superior talent to Brandon Bolden. He's the better option in this offense. We've seen him produce at a lot higher rates in the past. He's averaged over 5 yards per touch over his career and has had 800 plus total yards in 5 of his 8 seasons in the NFL. He's worth a shot late in drafts, if you're asking me. End of the draft, you're just looking for some bench stashes. Kenyon Drake, not a bad option. Which leaves us with the last guy we want to talk about here today. That's Damien Williams of now the Atlanta Falcons. Did you know he was in Atlanta? He's currently running back 74 and going undrafted as well. And here's a name that you really haven't had to think much about since he was in Kansas City back in 2019. The Falcons targeted their running backs last season 133 times, also among the league leaders in that stat. Now, partially because they needed pass catchers, but what's to say they really don't need to have that happen here once again? Sure, we love Kyle Pitts. We like Drake London. I even like Cordero Patterson. But who else could absorb some of those targets? How about a speedy Damien Williams? Sure, they drafted Tyler Algier, and he's more of an early down guy that I could see getting first and second down work. Now, historically, Marcus Mariota hasn't really targeted his running backs much in his career over the past few years. But in a new offense that needs to put some points on the board, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few more checkdowns this year in Atlanta just to try to keep the chains moving, and that could really benefit Damien Williams. By no means is this guy as quote-unquote safe as the other guys that I've already talked about. He's more of a what if, and really, at this point in the draft, you're not investing any risk, right? At this point, you're just stashing somebody. Me, personally, depending on when you draft, I wouldn't draft a kicker in the last round. I would draft somebody like Damien Williams and see what happens throughout the month of August, and then make that decision when the season starts, whether or not I need to keep him or drop him for a kicker. That's a great option here for Damien Williams. But like I said at the opening, we could sit here and talk about all the big names, the Christian McCaffreys, the Alvin Kamars, and sure, we'll touch on them here this offseason, but talking about the same big names all the time just to get clicks isn't how we roll over here. We're trying to give you the best information possible, so at the end of the year, you're walking away with extra cash, trophies, respect, whatever it may be. That's what we're all about here this year. But do me a favor, hit that like button if you wouldn't mind. It greatly helps us out here on YouTube. And consider subscribing if you haven't already, because we got you covered the entire season, and we're going to dominate some fantasy football here in 2022. But for now, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day, a great week. We'll talk to you later.